In a democracy, the powers are shared among arms of government. Each arm can restrain the others from exerting too much power. The judiciary can review, the president can veto, and the parliament can override. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? A federal high court in Abuja on Wednesday restrained the National Assembly from acting further on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, wherein it changed the sequence of elections among several other things. The president had earlier declined assenting the bill, but the lawmakers do not seem to agree with the court.
Mr. President, the issue really is not on the bill itself. The issue has to do with due process and parliamentary functions. I'm worried about the separation of powers as enshrined in our Constitution. The issue then is, can really the court, through an injunction, ex parte or otherwise, stop the parliament from carrying out its constitutional duties?
So there you have it. Plus the fact that the controversy around the sequence of elections is around the center of all of these politics makes it more intriguing, isn't it? So let's get perspective on this one politically, and of course we get some legal perspective. So I have two gentlemen learned in their own right, in their own field. I have an associate professor in the political science department, University of Lagos, Dr. Kayode Isuola, on the program tonight on the panel, and I have Barrister Monday Oyekachi Ubanin is the second vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Sure, my pleasure.
Maybe we should begin from a legal point of view, because this seems to be where the whole crisis is coming from. Does the court have the power to stop the parliament from its constitutional duty of making laws?
A general question, and I would say no.
So the court does not have the judiciary does not have the power.
Ordinarily would not stop another arm of government from exercising a role that is assigned by the Constitution. It's very, very clear. But let's look at what has just happened in this case to know whether the court has actually stopped another arm from exercising its powers. And I don't think so. If somebody feels aggrieved under our laws in this country, the only arm of government that we hear that particular grievance is the court. Now, the court has the right to say it has jurisdiction over a matter. It can also decline that it does not have jurisdiction. In exercise of its powers, the court must exercise those powers judiciously and judicially. And there must be wisdom in exercise of its powers. But before the court will come to that conclusion that it does not have a jurisdiction, the facts must be brought. You will look at the originating summons or your writ of summons and the reliefs you are seeking. And the court will be so conscious of the fact that when it exercises power in vacuum, that wrongly, then that power is completely a nullity. And so the court is very careful. So what has happened in the case that came before the court was that a political party is alleging there is a grievance. He has suffered some grievance and he wants a preservation of the race pending the time that the motion on notice will be heard, and that is next Tuesday. And the court will always be eager to preserve the rest if there is any damage that cannot be quantified monetarily. You cannot be compensated by money. The court, under exercise of these powers, can grant an interim order. Pending the time all the facts will be made available, then the court now will be in a better position to appreciate all the fine points of law, to know whether it has jurisdiction, whether what you are asking the court to do is to stop another arm of government from exercising its powers given to it by the Constitution.
But
he has not come to that law.
It's not stopped it, but he suspended it.
Yes, what he did is say, hold on, let me preserve the rest. Somebody has approached me and he say he has a grievance, but I want you to come. You can come by preliminary objection and say, no, the court, you have no jurisdiction over this matter. The court now will now make a pronouncement that whether it has jurisdiction or not. So what the court has done is people are crying that it's sacrilegious. They are crying blue murder. Nothing has been done wrongly. It is on Tuesday when the court will hear all the parties. When the facts are presented, the court will now be in a position to say, oh, I have jurisdiction over this matter. I have no jurisdiction. So for now, the court is still vested with the power to ensure that when somebody runs to it for grievance, that I have suffered any grievance, the court must hear that person and preserve the rest. Pending the time, all parties will be here. So nothing has As somebody would say in our local palace, nothing has spoiled.
It looks so much for the lawmakers. They are aggrieved, and they're planning to write to the CJN over this matter to say, look, in a matter of issues or principles of separation of powers, where leadership is entrenched, it looks as something is gone wrong. This is a political matter.
That's right.
And interests are here. Can the court really say that it has jurisdiction on this matter?
That's what I'm telling you now. Now, you know, as lawyers, we are being, careful, even a matter that is in court, because it's sub judice. I cannot in any way make any pronouncement as whether the court has any right to do what it's doing. But as I said earlier, on Tuesday, this matter will be presented before the court. The National Assembly will come with all their facts, or any of the parties in the case will come. And the court now will now look at both the contending party or the person that is aggrieved and look at all the facts and then make a decision. So for now, what the court has only done is to preserve the rest. It's important is, this is done because somebody is saying, look, the National Assembly does not have the right to do what they have done. The president has refused assent. And then they are now threatening to override the veto powers of the president, which will now automatically translate that particular bill into law. And I will be wronged. So let them not exercise that power until you hear my grievance, until you hear what I'm bringing before the court. So that is actually the state at the tweet it is now. So it is only when the court has heard all the parties, then the court will make a pronouncement. But I'll tell you this, the court is very conscious of its powers. It will not in any way unduly interfere with another arm of government in exercising its powers. It will not.
We'll see how that plays out. So let's take some political advice from the expert here. Dr. Iswola, as it stands right now, from the principles of separation of powers, which is some of the cardinal principle of what democracy stands for, has anything gone wrong?
Well, in my view, nothing really has gone wrong. What the court has done, as the barrister said, is to place a hold pending the hearing of all the details of the parties involved so that decisions will be taken. But my take is a bit different. Perhaps you want me to make an amendment. What the court has done is not to usurp the power, it's to examine the issue. And in my view, the issue on ground is absolutely political. It's an issue that has to do with election. Election is a political issue. It has to do with democracy and how we practice it in Nigeria. If you look at the three parties involved, you have the presidency, you have the judiciary, and then you have the legislature. Which amongst them has the greatest stake when it comes to the issue of election and democracy? The answer is the legislature. The president sits in Abuja, although was voted in directly by the electorate, but two things. He represents the interests of a political party, one. Two, it is not everyone who voted for the president. Some voted for the opponent. If you look at the legislature does not represent one political party. All parties that are registered in Nigeria have representatives in the National Assembly. Besides, the role is to go back to the constituencies and get the feelers from the people. Voice the populace, voice Dei. The people will tell the representatives, this is what we think about this policy. So I am calculating that it must have been the peoples of Nigeria, deliberately I put that as, who told their representatives to go back to their chambers, upper and lower, and said, this timetable does not go down well with us. In that sense, I think politically, the legislature has done something right. But however, once somebody has gone to court, I think it is the duty of the judiciary to suspend action while it looks into it, get the details, do the analysis, and then allow a pronouncement to come up for the benefit of Nigeria. And then in saying that, we need to be careful of the level of political development of our country. The question is, at this point in the history of our country, at this point, at this level of political development, what are we to protect? What are we to protect? The law, the people, the democracy? These three questions, when we answer them, then we know how to apportion blame to who does what